Thanks, Chrissy, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in Melbourne in September, and as a long-suffering Fremantle Dockers member, it's not something I often have the opportunity to do. So I'm here to tell you about the Murchison Technology Metals Project, or the MTMP, and we're just south of Meekatharra and looking to bring that online. It's a vanadium project, and if you did have the opportunity of being in here earlier this morning, you would have heard John Price from Richmond Vanadium give us a great introduction to where vanadium sits on the critical minerals spectrum and some of those really exciting applications that are coming in the battery space. So it's our standard disclaimer. The presentation has been released in full to the ASX this morning, and so you'll be able to read this at your leisure in much more detail at the next opportunity. The standard, is it going? Press button, go. Uh-oh, there we go. So the standard corporate overview slide, we finished the end of the financial year with $16.5 million of cash on hand, and at close of play on Friday, we had a market cap around the $75 million mark. We have a really core group of top 20 shareholders, and they hold about 60% of our stock, so you don't often see a lot of volumes traded. I'm having problems with the magic green button. Oh, there we go. So why the Murchison Technology Metals Project? So we're here at a critical minerals conference. Vanadium is a critical mineral, not just in Australia, but in a lot of other jurisdictions around the world. And we have a significant undeveloped resource here in Australia. I think it's around 18% of world resources, and we don't currently have any mines in operation. At the MTMP, we've got about 44 million tonnes of ore in reserve, and that grade's just under 1%. Our federal government has recently updated its critical minerals strategy, and we're closely aligned with that, and we're really keen to embrace the opportunity that we perhaps missed a bit in the lithium space and take that vanadium, not just from the mine and digging it up, but really building that downstream technology, not just ourselves, but with the whole industry behind us and that peer group to really take that value creation and keep it in Australia as much as we can. We've got some great infrastructure in Western Australia. The APA Group have recently completed the Northern Goldfields Interconnect gas pipeline, and our project is lucky enough to be only 150 kilometres to the north of that. So that gives us the opportunity to really develop the project in a unique way and keep as much as our mine site processing on site just near Meekatharra and not have to truck large volumes of ore to a port to get it out or to a battery manufacturer down in Perth or somewhere where they want to deploy that technology. So that access to infrastructure in Western Australia is really key, and it's a differentiator for our project. What's next? Green button. Oops. I don't think I have the magic touch for this green button, Chrissy. Hold it in my hand. Oh, perfect. Thank you for the tip. So here's it in context on the map. So as I said, we're all in Western Australia, which is a wonderful jurisdiction to be developing a mine in. That large high-grade vanadium resource gives us over 20 years of mine life, and we would hope to extend that as we get into production. We've also got a not insignificant byproduct from our southern tenement called ilmenite, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. Unlike John and the Richmond Vanadium team, we have a fresh ore body, and this works for us. We've done extensive test work on this. It's close to surface, and we know that we get a really good recovery of our vanadium from this fresh ore. We're using a proven flow sheet that's currently in operation throughout the world in other primary vanadium mines, and so we've got a lot of confidence that with this ore body and this process flow sheet, we can really produce a high purity product that can be used in either steel or battery applications. And we're lucky enough to get support from the Danish Export Credit Agency. I say lucky, but we're partnering with FL Schmidt, who are going to be one of our major equipment suppliers. So that's envisioned to be an equipment financing package, and FL Schmidt are on board, and they're a Denmark company, so their Export Credit Agency has an opportunity to participate in their future through that financing of us. Oh, love it. Pick it up and press it. So as we mentioned, we've got two uses for vanadium that are core. There's always been this application in steel, and we expect that to continue and provide the steady state supply base for vanadium in the world. But the real application we see is coming from this battery space. China in particular has led the way, and they've actually made a decision unanimously to use vanadium redox flow batteries in preference to lithium-ion batteries for large-scale renewable energy storage. And this is where the vanadium batteries really have the characteristics that make it preferential over the lithium-ion. We've looked at forming relationships with customers in both sides, so we're not picking one or the other. We still think there's a good demand that's going to come from that steel market, particularly out of India, and one of our MOUs is with Tata Steel. But then we've also got understandings with LE Systems out of Japan, as well as Delectric, which are an emerging battery supplier from India. So a couple of recent headlines. John also mentioned the Adlamalka project in South Australia. This is the largest vanadium battery installation in the Southern Hemisphere. Our business development manager, Jason Barnett, went over for the commissioning of it, and it's really exciting to start to see this technology in action, and we're really keen to see how that plays out and whether all the benefits that we're talking about are actually on display at this project. And the Queensland government's been probably the key state government to get behind vanadium technology as they transition away from coal in their state and look at how they're going to decarbonise. So a lot of support coming from the Queensland government for the vanadium hopefuls in that jurisdiction. But when you think about it, there's a lot of large-scale renewable energy projects being developed in Australia, whether it's wind or solar, and that really provides a massive opportunity for us to develop that vanadium battery market in this country. So if you look at our project, we're looking to move as far down that value chain as we possibly can. Certainly raw materials and extraction, it's our core skill set in Australia, but the plant that we're proposing to build on site takes it all the way through to what we'd consider is akin to a battery precursor. It's the material that goes into the electrolyte. It's the last stage before making that electrolyte that goes into a battery. And one of our key terms of our MOU with LE System is the opportunity to license their technology to produce vanadium electrolyte, whether that's here in Australia or overseas. But we've trialled that with LE Systems. We've successfully produced electrolyte using our vanadium pentoxide. So we're really confident that we can take it further up the value chain to that next step and build an electrolyte plant. But in terms of capital investment, it's that electrolyte plant is kind of the cherry on the cake. It's not as much as a capital investment as the rest of the project, and it doesn't take as long to build. So we're really focusing on establishing that primary supply of vanadium initially, and then we'll add that next element along the supply chain. We don't think we'll ever be a battery manufacturer because that's definitely outside our core skill set, but we want to be the one that's supplying the electrolyte. So where are we at with our project? We released our integration study in August last year, so just over a year ago, and that integrated, we had two ore bodies, two deposits, one at Gabonintha and one to the south at Yarrabubba, and we moved those two together to form the Murchison Technology Metals Project. And since then, we've been keenly focused on getting to that next stage of bankable feasibility study. We feel like we're swimming in the bath a bit from Eddie's presentation earlier this morning, which has been a great analogy. But we're focusing on three key work streams in parallel. So that construction readiness, we went out and did a commercial competitive tender process late last year, early this year, and we've identified our key project partners who we're going to work with in GRES and iron mine contractings. So along with FL Schmidt, we've been working on really optimising and identifying cost efficiencies and time savings so that when we get all the approvals in place, we're ready to go and start construction. So the second phase has been that planning and approvals. We've recently submitted 6 weeks ago, our environmental review document with the West Australian Environmental Protection Agency. I should know what EPA stands for. And we've been continuing to engage with our traditional owners on our heritage approvals. And lastly, on the financing side, we've been busy working with SRK as our independent technical expert, and their report will be something that the banks can use to assess us and our project and the work that we've undertaken. So we're coming to the end of that IT process, and that report will then be available for the next stages of those conversations. So I've talked a bit about Yarrabubba and our byproduct, which is ilmenite. It's not a very attractive looking product, and it's hard to believe it goes into making paints and pretty cool pigments. But this market's still dominated by China, and Ian recently went to China on a marketing trip at the beginning of August to start having those conversations around offtake for this ilmenite product. We're expecting that the project will produce around 100,000 tonnes per annum of ilmenite for 7 of the first 9 years out of Yarrabubba, and that's a really important revenue stream that helps reduce the cost of producing vanadium, which is our core goal. On the infrastructure side, I've mentioned how APA completed their Northern Goldfields interconnect pipeline and how that opens up the connection of the gas up to our project site. We've been working with APA for just about a year now because they have to go through the same sort of environmental and heritage approvals to define their pipeline corridor. So they've been busy working away on establishing the proper pathway for that gas pipeline to deliver that key input into our project. And we've got really good road infrastructure. We're only 50 k's south of Meekatharra, and we've recently entered into a road access and maintenance agreement with the Shire of Meekatharra for some of those key roads. And that'll help us get our major pieces of equipment in during construction, as well as all the operational needs, and help to get our product out to Geraldton Port for the ilmenite and Fremantle Port for the vanadium. And so lastly, it's that port agreement. We've also been talking to the Geraldton Port, because we not only have to ship our ilmenite out through that bulk port, but there'll be some key reagents that'll be coming in through Geraldton as well. On the traditional owner engagement, it's been an interesting few months in Western Australia. So you probably heard we had some legislation come in and then we had some legislation come out. So that's been challenging, but that doesn't fundamentally change the way that we plan to engage with our traditional owners, who are the Yunganaya people. We've had a long relationship with them. We continue to work respectfully and make sure that we understand what their needs are in relation to the country, and that they have opportunities to participate in the benefits that will come out of it. So we ran another round of community briefing sessions, and these are ones that we run in Meekatharra, Geraldton and Perth to try and pick up as many of the community as we possibly can get in touch with. And that just gives them an opportunity to ask questions and be informed about the process. We've signed a term sheet on commercial terms with the prescribed body corporate for the Yunganaya, and so we're in the process of doing the legal drafting of that, and that'll be another round of socialisation and briefing sessions to ensure the members understand what the contents of that agreement are. And lastly, as I mentioned, we've got our, hopefully, fingers crossed, final environmental review document in with the WA EPA for their review and assessment and recommendation to the board. On the funding strategy, there's not too much that's changed from what we've previously presented. As I mentioned, we're just about at the end of this ITE process, and that is a key deliverable that both commercial banks as well as the sovereign funds in NAIF and EFA and EKF, the Danish export industry, other lenders and strategic partners will want to have access to that as an independent reference point to the work that we've done. It's not just us telling them that it's a really great project and you should invest, it's that next step away of independence. So that's a really big milestone for us, and it allows us to have those next level of conversations. We can all appreciate that it's currently a very difficult market to attract capital investment, especially the significant levels of capital investment that you need to build one of these critical minerals projects. And I'm not sure that there's a silver bullet for it, but maybe there's a vanadium bullet. Haha. So that's it really. It's a terrific project that we're trying to get up and running in the Murchison here. We know that vanadium is absolutely critical to the transition to a decarbonised future, and wouldn't it be great if we can do a lot of that process here in Australia and keep that value and build that technology in the place where it was first invented. We've got some great people working for us and with us, and we're going to be the ones to deliver the next primary vanadium mine in Australia. So thanks very much. As Chrissy said, come and see Ian and I at the booth if you haven't already, and we'd love to have a chat some more about it.